How can a nation transition from being one of the most progressive societies in the Middle East to becoming one of the world's most stringent religious regimes? During the 1960s and 1970s, Iran appeared to be charting a course dramatically different from the perceptions many hold today. Universities were flourishing, cities undergoing rapid modernization, and the streets of Tehran pulsed with a vibrant society openly embracing global cultural influences. Perhaps most strikingly, it was entirely unremarkable to see women in short skirts, fitted dresses, and contemporary hairstyles on these very same thoroughfares. This imagery sharply contrasts with the popular understanding of Iran today, inevitably prompting a crucial question. How could such profound change occur so swiftly? Today, we will delve into what Iran was truly like prior to the 1979 revolution, exploring why a nation seemingly on an irreversible path toward modernity ultimately confronted one of the 20th century's most radical political transformations. But before we dive in, please take a moment to subscribe to the Past Chronicle. Afterward, leave a comment below and share what other captivating historical narratives you'd like us to explore on the channel. Now, let's journey together back to Iran in the 1970s. Imagine for a moment a bustling avenue, lined with inviting cafes, well-stocked bookstores, and vibrant cinemas. Young people stroll past stylish shop windows, some clad in jeans, others in elegant suits. On university campuses, spirited debates on philosophy, politics, and science echo through the halls. Women confidently attend classes, work in offices, and drive their own cars. In bustling restaurants, Western pop music harmoniously blends with traditional Persian melodies. This scene might easily be mistaken for a European city in the 1960s, but it isn't. This is Tehran. Throughout much of the 20th century, Iran embarked on a period of breathtaking transformation that captivated the world. Specifically during the 1960s and 1970s, the country began to project an image that directly challenged many long-held stereotypes about the Middle East. Universities expanded at an astonishing rate, educational opportunities became widely accessible, and the Iranian capital rapidly established itself as one of the most dynamic cultural hubs in the entire region. For numerous foreign visitors, Tehran was a truly vibrant metropolis. It boasted theaters, art galleries, diverse cultural festivals, and a nightlife scene that rivaled those of major European capitals. Its streets teemed with students, intellectuals, merchants, and professionals, all contributing to a society that was progressively integrating with the wider world. Women, in particular, were carving out an increasingly visible role in public life. Many pursued higher education at universities and held positions in hospitals, schools, and government offices. In the major cities, their active participation in professional life was no longer an exception, but a growing norm. All these developments strongly indicated that Iran was embarking on a new historical trajectory. An ancient nation, inheritor of one of the world's most influential civilizations, was actively striving to redefine its identity and position in the 20th century. Its landscape was interwoven with imperial palaces, burgeoning modern buildings, and traffic-filled avenues. The nation was keen to present itself as a modern power, deeply proud of its rich past, yet resolutely oriented toward the future. However, beneath this polished veneer of progress lay deep-seated tensions. The pace of change was dizzying. Reforms were reshaping the country's economy, education, and culture within just a few short years. For some, this represented an unparalleled historic opportunity. For others, it felt like an abrupt rupture with traditions that had profoundly defined Iranian identity for generations. Modernization was undoubtedly advancing, but not everyone was keeping pace, nor were they all equally enthusiastic. It was in this widening gap between those who wholeheartedly embraced change and those who viewed it with suspicion that the initial fissures of a much more intricate story began to emerge. What appeared to be a straightforward march toward modernity was, in reality, fundamentally reshaping an entire society. To truly comprehend how Iran evolved into one of the most dynamic societies in the Middle East during the 20th century, we must direct our attention to the figure who singularly dominated the nation's political landscape, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. Educated in Europe and firmly convinced that Iran's prosperity hinged on relentless modernization, the Shah envisioned a formidable, industrialized nation capable of competing with the world's great powers. His vision was unequivocal. Iran needed to undergo a rapid and profound transformation into a modern state. To achieve this ambitious goal, the change had to be far-reaching and systemic. During the 1960s, his government launched an extensive set of reforms famously known as the White Revolution. Despite its name, this was not a revolution in the traditional sense of a popular uprising, but rather a colossal program of social and economic transformation meticulously engineered and implemented from the top down. These sweeping reforms encompassed significant land redistribution, a vast expansion of the educational system, the construction of modern infrastructure, and an aggressive drive toward industrialization. Millions of peasants received land that had previously been concentrated in the hands of large landowners. New schools and universities proliferated across the country. The overarching objective was to dramatically accelerate national development, and for a period, the results seemed undeniably impressive. Surging oil revenues provided the financial muscle to fund colossal projects. Highways were paved, hospitals built, airports constructed, and factories sprang up. Cities expanded at a breathtaking pace. Tehran, in particular, filled with modern buildings, fostering a growing middle class that began to reap the benefits of this burgeoning economic growth. The government also championed crucial social changes. Women were granted the right to vote and started to participate more actively in public life. New laws significantly expanded their access to education and employment opportunities. For many international observers, Iran increasingly appeared to be a shining example of modernization within the Muslim world. However, these ambitious reforms also sowed seeds of tension. Certain traditional sectors, most notably within the religious clergy, regarded these transformations with profound apprehension. They harbored deep fears that the country was abandoning its cherished cultural and religious values in favor of models imported directly from the West. For them, modernization was not merely altering the economy or political structures, it was fundamentally reshaping the very identity of the nation. While the government vigorously celebrated its progress, a quiet but potent debate began to simmer within Iranian society. To what extent should the country transform itself to attain modernity? The answer to that profound question would ultimately cleave an entire generation. Iran's international image throughout the 1970s was predominantly that of a modern, dynamic country experiencing rapid economic growth. Yet, that polished image, compelling as it was, did not tell the full, nuanced story. While Tehran's avenues buzzed with new automobiles, and its international hotels welcomed visitors from every corner of the globe, the nation's political power was, paradoxically, becoming increasingly concentrated in the iron grip of the Shah. Iran's political system operated as a monarchy that exerted firm, centralized control over virtually every aspect of public life. Although formal institutions like a parliament technically existed, the most pivotal decisions continued to rest directly with the monarch and his immediate inner circle. Elections offered only a highly restricted form of political competition. Political parties functioned under rigorous supervision, and any open criticism of the government could lead to severe consequences. One of the most feared instruments of the regime's control was its formidable intelligence organization, notoriously known as SAVAK. This agency was specifically tasked with monitoring any potential threats to the government, identifying dissidents, and maintaining a tight rein over political movements deemed dangerous. For significant segments of the population, the pervasive existence of this surveillance apparatus created a constant, unsettling sense of pressure. Concurrently, the rapid economic growth was not benefiting everyone equally. Swift urban development drew millions of people from the countryside into the cities. Many arrived brimming with hope for new opportunities, but were met with a harsh, complicated reality. Scarce housing, limited job prospects, and a cost of living that was escalating rapidly. Modernization had indeed generated wealth, but had also exacerbated existing inequalities. In some neighborhoods of Tehran, sleek modern buildings and glittering shopping centers appeared to symbolize prosperity. In stark contrast, poorer districts expanded, where newcomers struggled relentlessly to adapt to the rigors of urban life. This stark dichotomy began to foster widespread discomfort. While some segments of society celebrated the nation's progress, others started to question whether that progress was genuinely benefiting all Iranians. Modernization continued its relentless march forward, yet more and more people began to peer beyond the dazzling facade of development. And what they increasingly saw did not always align with the image of prosperity the government so desperately wished to project to the world. When societal changes unfold too rapidly, societies frequently react in unpredictable ways. In Iran, that reaction began to manifest in various spaces simultaneously. On university campuses, countless students engaged in fervent debates about democracy, pervasive inequality, and political freedom. Inspired by the potent intellectual currents sweeping across Europe and Latin America, many young people began vociferously questioning the country's existing political model. In nationalist circles, the government's perceived closeness to Western powers came under sharp criticism. Some argued that Iran was compromising its autonomy in foreign policy. However, the most profound and influential opposition began to emerge from an unexpected quarter: the religious establishment. Within the Shiite clergy, influential figures watched the country's trajectory with mounting concern. For them, the modernization championed by the government was not simply an economic or political shift. It represented a profound cultural transformation that threatened to fundamentally alter the revered role of religion in Iranian society. Among these increasingly vocal critics, a cleric who was rapidly gaining notoriety for his impassioned speeches stood out: Ruhollah Khomeini. From his exile, he openly denounced the Shah's policies and vehemently warned that the country was dangerously drifting away from its deeply ingrained religious roots. His powerful messages began circulating widely among students, merchants, and religious communities who shared similar profound concerns. However, the burgeoning opposition to the regime was far from a unified, monolithic movement. It comprised disparate groups holding vastly different ideologies. Some advocated for moderate political reforms, seeking gradual change. Others proposed much more radical social restructuring. Still others yearned to preserve traditional values that they perceived as gravely threatened by the relentless march of modernization. The only common thread binding these diverse factions was a pervasive and intensifying sense of discontent. Iran, in many respects, remained a modern country, but an increasing chorus of voices began to critically question the direction it was taking. And when a society starts asking too many fundamental questions simultaneously, its political stability can become far more fragile than it outwardly appears. For much of the 20th century, Iran experienced one of the most swift and profound transformations in its long history. In a mere few decades, a deeply traditional society embarked on a journey of radical change. This encompassed a dramatic expansion of education, accelerated urban growth, rapid industrialization, and a significant cultural opening that connected the country more deeply with the rest of the world. Universities swelled with eager students. Cities expanded their boundaries. Women began to occupy increasingly prominent and visible roles in public life. New generations started to envision a fundamentally different kind of nation. Iran, it seemed, was unequivocally moving toward modernity. Yet, history rarely progresses in a straightforward, linear fashion. The very transformations that fueled this remarkable development also generated profound underlying tensions. Rapid modernization, burgeoning social inequalities, The regime's tightening political control and the inherent clash between cherished tradition and radical change began to foster a palpable climate of uncertainty within Iranian society. An ancient country, fiercely proud of its rich cultural and religious identity, found itself wrestling with difficult, existential questions about its future. What aspects of the past should be meticulously preserved? What elements absolutely had to change? And, most critically, who held the ultimate right to decide the course of an entire nation? By the late 1970s, Iran still projected its modern facade to the world. Brightly illuminated avenues, bustling universities, expanding industries, and a cosmopolitan capital that seemed to vie with the great cities across the globe. But beneath that gleaming surface, tensions that had steadily accumulated for years were already fundamentally altering the country's political and social climate. Iran remained a nation defined by stark contrasts, tradition interwoven with modernity, prosperity alongside deep inequality, cultural openness shadowed by pervasive political control. And amidst all these simmering contradictions, the country was inexorably moving toward a decisive moment in its history, a moment that would not only reshape the destiny of Iran, but also irrevocably alter the political balance of the entire Middle East. For by the close of that tumultuous decade, without many people fully realizing it, the entire nation already stood with one foot on the precipice of revolution. Thank you for staying with us until the very end. If you found this video engaging and you're passionate about this kind of historical content, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next videos and can continue to discover more fascinating stories. We'll see you in the next video.